Hello, beautiful people of the internet. How are you doing today? My name is Jackie and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today in this video, I'm going to be discussing the books that I read in the months of January and February. January was not a great reading month for me, hence why I am combining these two wrap-ups, but I think in February I started making my way towards a reading recovery. In the months of January and February, I read 9 books for a total of 3,710 pages. Granted, one of the books alone was 800 pages itself. My average star rating for these 2 months of reading was 3.72 stars out of 5. So all in all, a lot of good books. Let's dive into it. The very first book that I read this year was They Never Learn by Lane Fargo. Overall, I did end up really enjoying this one and I gave it 4 stars. This is a thriller set on a college campus, mainly following 2 storylines. We have Scarlet, who is a professor at this college who is secretly murdering men who abuse, assault, or take advantage of women. And then we also follow Carly, who is a freshman starting at the university, and another student close to her is assaulted. What I really loved about this book was it had an amazing twist. I did not see it coming, and in retrospect, I 100% should have. And those are my favorite kinds of twists in mysteries and thrillers, because I like to be surprised, but I also want to know that, like, the signs were there and I should have picked up on it. So, slow clap. Good job, Lane Fargo. Great twist. You got me. There were a few things about this book, though, that I did find a little obvious. Specifically, there was one character who was revealed to be a bad guy, and I saw that coming miles away. I do like that this book is trying to address rape culture. It also has some sapphic representation, so if you're looking for thrillers that feature same-sex relationships between women, worth checking this one out. However, I felt like sometimes it was a little too on the nose in terms of its messaging. It's really hard to explain if you haven't read the book, but I will link my Goodreads review in the description so you can choose to view the spoilers if you've read this book already, or maybe you just want to hear my thoughts and you don't care about being spoiled. Next, I read The Excalibur Curse by Kiersten White, the final book in the Camelot Rising trilogy. I ended up giving this 3 stars. There were things about this that I really liked, but also a lot of aspects that I found disappointing. So all in all, an okay ending to the trilogy. This is a young adult fantasy series based off Arthurian legend with Guinevere as the main character, and all in all, I thought this was an okay conclusion to the series. I liked it well enough when I was reading, but there were some things that I found disappointing. I think that the resolution to the romantic storylines was really lackluster. There were 3 characters that I thought Guinevere could potentially end up with, and the person that she did end up with was not my first choice. However, I was open to that possibility. I think that Kiersten White didn't spend enough time on that relationship to make it convincing. I believe the 2 of them cared about each other and loved each other, but not necessarily in a romantic way. I don't think the 2 of them even kiss in this book. So there really wasn't even an I love you confession or anything. I kind of wish that if these 2 were going to end up together, she had written some more scenes between the 2 of them. And I would imagine that if you shipped these 2 the entire trilogy and wanted them to end up together, you would also be disappointed because there really wasn't that much there. One discussion in this book that I really appreciated was it talked about how when you are in a position of power and you have to make these major decisions, it's very difficult because sometimes there's no clear-cut answer and you want to do what's best for the people you're leading, but that might also result in other people getting hurt. I think a harsh reality of our existence as humans is that try as we might, it's impossible for us to go through this world and never hurt somebody else, unintentionally or not. So I appreciate that there was some nuance to this, and it's not necessarily like, oh, these are the good people and these are the bad people. The fact is, sometimes you have bad people who have good reasons for doing something, and sometimes you have good people who their heart's in the right place, but they make a bad decision or unintentionally hurt somebody else. So I liked that complexity. I also just love Mordred in this series. Was I expecting this? No. But do I love him? Yes. Yes, I do. Then I read Scythe by Neil Shusterman. I actually ended up giving this 5 stars. I didn't think this book was perfect, but I thought it was immensely entertaining, and I can't wait to keep reading the series. Scythe is the first in a young adult series that takes place in a utopian future where humanity has eradicated death. However, in order to keep the population under control, there are people who train as scythes, and the responsibility of a scythe is basically to act like a grim reaper, and every single year they have to murder a portion of the population. Our 2 main characters, Rowan and Citra, are training to become scythes, and all in all, I thought this was a very entertaining book. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I feel like this might be the best young adult book I've read since I first read The Hunger Games. And The Hunger Games is one of my favorite series of all time. I really haven't been reading young adult as much anymore because a lot of times I just kind of feel like things in young adult aren't as well developed, but this one I thought was both action-packed and also it had a lot of nuance to it, which I really enjoyed. The writing was almost cinematic. I think this would make an amazing film or television series. I need these books to be adapted ASAP. There were some twists and turns in the plot that I didn't see coming. I will say I'm not entirely sold on the romantic plot yet. We'll see how it goes in the future books, but I'm so excited to continue the series and see what's going to happen next. That's why I had to give it 5 stars. I was thoroughly entertained. I understand what the hype is about with this book. It was really great. Next, I read Poirot Investigates by Agatha Christie. I don't have a lot to say about this. I ended up giving this book 3 stars. This is a short story collection and the 3rd book in the Poirot series. Overall, I thought it was okay. I don't regret reading it, and I didn't think it was bad, but it wasn't great either. It's been a little while since I read this now, and it's hard for me to remember all the specific stories. None of them really caught me by surprise. But the thing that I like about Agatha Christie's books is that they are very easy to read, and I always find myself getting through them rather quickly, so I do appreciate that, and I will definitely keep reading her Poirot books. Next, I read Survive the Night by Riley Sager. I was actually pleasantly surprised by this one. I ended up giving it 4 stars. I understand why a lot of people may not have liked this book so much, but considering how many negative reviews I saw about this book before I read it, I didn't think it was that bad. Was it a bit ridiculous at points? Yeah, but it was also pretty interesting to read, and I flew through it very quickly. So this book takes place in the 1990s at a college campus where several women have been murdered by a serial killer. Charlie is our main character. She's obsessed with movies, and she's looking to get off campus ASAP because she's still having a hard time coping after the murder of her roommate by the campus killer. She ends up agreeing to share a ride with this guy named Josh, who she's never met before, and while they're in the car together, she begins to think that he might be the campus killer. I flew through this book. I thought it was very suspenseful and I was interested in seeing what was going to happen next. I do think some points of the plot were a little ridiculous. The suspension of disbelief was high. However, I would argue I feel the same way about all of Riley Sager's books. I think that's just a little more of his writing style. I mean, Lock Every Door by him I thought was so ridiculous it was almost insulting, and I know a lot of people enjoyed that one. There was one twist in this book that I did really enjoy, and I devoured this book. I was really interested in seeing what was going to happen next, so it did give me that entertainment factor that I was wanting. I think there are two main issues with this book though, and I think I can understand why a lot of people didn't like this. First of all, some of the choices that Charlie makes when she believes her life is in danger make no sense, and I feel like if a woman wrote this book, the character of Charlie would have been written differently, because as women in our society, a lot of us prepare for what we're supposed to do if we feel like a man may attack us or harm us. I know when I went to college, we all took a self-defense class so that we would know what to do if a man attacked us. It's just a sad reality of being a woman in this society that we live in, and there were some things that Charlie did where I'm like, no woman who believes that she might be raped and murdered is actually gonna do this. Come on. Also, while I thought this book did have one really good twist, the reveal of who the campus killer is, in my opinion, was very, very obvious, so that part didn't surprise me. Next up, I'm going to briefly discuss 3 books together. These were the 3 books that I read for my blind date with a book reading vlog. So since I already discussed these books in that vlog, I'm not going to go into too much detail here. If you want to hear my more detailed thoughts, go watch that vlog. But the books that I read for that were Find Me in Havana by Serena Burdick, Beneath a Scarlet Sky by Mark Sullivan, and The Mountains Echoed by Khaled Hosseini. Find Me in Havana I gave 3.5 stars. This is based off the story of Estelita Rodriguez, who was a Cuban actress who had some success in Hollywood, mainly in westerns. I thought this was a very interesting story. It had vaguely Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo vibes. However, I did have issues with some of the writing choices, so all in all, really interesting storyline and concept. There were just some things the author did that I did not personally like. Then, Beneath a Scarlet Sky by Mark Sullivan, I gave this 3 stars. All in all, I didn't think this book was badly written exactly, but this is another book that says it's based on a true story. And to be completely honest with you, I don't believe a lot of the things in this book actually happened, or at least didn't happen the way they are presented. I wish there was a little more transparency about what the author made up or dramatized and what Pino says actually happened to him, because something here is just not adding up in my book, and I don't know if it was just the author making scenarios seem unbelievable, or if the real person is exaggerating his own life. Something here ain't right, though. This is a book set in World War II era Milan, and I'm not interested in World War II. It's not a time period that I particularly enjoy reading about, and I'm still perplexed about why this was recommended to me for a blind date with a book. It doesn't match my personal reading tastes, but if you like World War II books, this one might be worth checking out. There were some parts that I thought were genuinely emotional, and a lot of other parts that just to me were not believable. Maybe if you're into this sort of thing, you'll like it. Then, And the Mountains Echoed, I ended up giving 4 stars. All in all, I did enjoy this one. I love Khaled Hosseini's writing, and this had the same emotion that I've come to expect from his books. He always hits me right in the heart with his powerful words. I think this was my least favorite of his 3 novels. The way that this story is told was not my personal favorite because every single chapter is told from a different character, and I kind of wish that we had been following the siblings as the main characters instead. All in all, though, I still think this was a good book. And finally, I read Vanity Fair by William Makepeace Thackeray. I ended up giving this 4 stars. All in all, I really enjoyed it. Our main character in this novel is Becky Sharp, and oh boy, she is a lot. Becky Sharp is very manipulative, ambitious, and self-serving. She'll do whatever it takes to advance herself in society. That made her, in my opinion, a very interesting character to read about, but she's not someone that I would ever want to associate with in real life. If you need to have someone to root for in the books you read, do not read this because none of the characters are likable. It's called Vanity Fair. Pretty much every single character has major character flaws. I think really the only character that I actually liked was probably Dobbin. I did sympathize with him at points. Everybody else I think I didn't like, but that was the author's intention. I think I personally really enjoy classic novels that include social commentary, and I did really enjoy the narration style. I do think sometimes the narration was a little long-winded, and sometimes I was kind of just like, okay, Thackeray, like, get to the point. You're going off on a really long tangent. But I mean, this is a big Victorian classic, so I think it's pretty par for the course. I did really enjoy reading about Becky and her antics, continued antics. Again, not a likable person, but an interesting character for a book. The co-lead, Amelia, I did not find nearly as compelling. I thought Becky was a much more interesting character than Amelia, but all in all, I did really enjoy this book. Really liked the narration. So those are the books that I read in the months of January and February. Let me know in the comment section down below, have you read any of these books? If so, did you like them? I would love to hear your thoughts. Please give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more from me. I post new videos every single Wednesday. My social media links are down below if you want to follow me on Tumblr, Instagram, or be my friend on Goodreads. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have an alluring rest of your day. Bye, and I'll see you next time.